I neglected on the first day to do what I normally do, so I'm going to do it today. We're going to start on the left, and we're going to go around and just say your first name, how old you are, and where you're from. Now, I'm going to say it again because some of you aren't going to be able to understand what I just said. Your first fucking name, how old you are, and where you're from. Period. Does anybody want to make me a bet?
I'll take that, sir.
What? You'll take the bet? Okay. No, not that bet. Not that bet. Okay, Gerard.
Gerard, 44, New York.
Sarita, 28, New Zealand.
Chris, 31, U.S.
Michael, 29, San Jose, California.
James, 30, Louisiana.
Andre, 26, Germany.
Romano, 39, U.S.
Christos, 22, Cyprus.
Tom, 37, Washington, D.C.
Sunil, 58, California.
Sebi, 41, India.
William, 26, Michigan.
Ben, 34, New Zealand.
David, 37, England.
Grant, 39, Ireland. And in men, 38, South Africa, Johannesburg.
Sebastian, 30, from Denmark.
Christopher, 25, Germany.
Joshua, 36, from Los Angeles.
Zach, 36, Ohio.
Carl, 26, Miami.
Sean, 27, Virginia.
Huron, 29, Ireland.
Babatunji, 26, Houston, Texas.
Tipperary, could you say it one more time in English? Oh God! I mean, truth is stranger than fiction. Unbelievable. Normally, I do that at the beginning, and I neglected to this time. But our average age is, if you throw out a couple of the old gits, is around 30. And as I said the first day, my demographics have gone from 10 years ago, it was 35 to 55, to now it's 18 to 34. 60%, 65% of the people that follow me. And because now the younger people understand that they're in trouble, as Sally would say, earlier on, because they've got just about endless information on the internet. And we have kids that are really, 13, 14, 15, that are aware that something's fucked up. And again, that's why the wealth, risk, reward, not talks at universities have been so well received. Really, contrary to what I thought. I never underestimate how wrong you can be. I didn't think that, especially because virtually not 100% of university students are snowflakes, but a vast majority of university students are snowflakes. I didn't think that my anti-establishment talk would be as well received as it has been. And we have a lot of demand for that. I don't have enough time. I could just do that full time, go around and talk to universities. Last night you saw what? Pass in your homework, please. Yeah. And for those of you that have looked at the website, I've been saying fear is false expectations appearing real for about 25 years. But when it happens to you, it doesn't feel like false expectation appearing real. It feels 100%. So what are some of the takeaways?
It starts in the amygdala of the brain, the threat center, and it's contagious. So if one person's fearful, it spreads to the entire group. And I think if one person's super confident and fearless, it spreads to the group.
And mob control, etc., has a lot to do with that. And I was just looking at the CNN before I came here, and in Paris, the French patriots, they're calling themselves, were rioting against Muslim French that were trying to do their morning prayers, right? Maybe I guess it's their afternoon prayers, and the commentator, the French commentator, as best as I can still understand French, said that there's going to be a religious war in France. This is 2018, religious wars. I mean, like the Crusades. I mean, nothing has fucking changed. The world is fucked up. You know, he didn't say genocide, but we've had genocide in the last 20, 25 years in 2 or 3 places on the planet where they try to practice genocide. And here we are in 2018, and we should have learned all these things. And like I've said countless times, if love got the motherfucking job done, we wouldn't have any of this. But chaos is good for us. I'm not saying religious war chaos is good for us, but chaos in general is good for QLA. Because from chaos comes order. Because there's going to be, unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of motivated sellers. Because they're going to want to go to cash. I'm not going to go the gold bullshit. I mean, they're going to want to go get liquid. And that makes our job easier. It makes our job easier. What else from the film? Yes, sir.
It talked about that if you expose yourself to your fears, you can overcome them. I think it was called extinction learning, something like that. You need to expose yourself to your fear gradually and gradually and gradually.
Well, I agree about the exposing it, but I don't believe about the gradual part. And that's why we thump it here from the beginning to the end, and I will continue to beat it into you during your weekly reports as I comment and respond to them. And we will continue to beat it during the Zoom calls, the monthly Zoom calls, because, bless you, when you get it out on the table and you talk about it, because that's just the opposite. When the people don't tell you that you're full of shit. People don't tell you, how can you possibly be thinking that when it's so crazy? But even if it's not crazy, the other side, the other opinion, is what allows us to invoke change. And this seminar, one of its main goals is to not just initiate change, but permanent change, not just temporary change. And the challenge with the personal development industry as a whole is that the change isn't anywhere near permanent. And that's why you get sucked into the vortex of coming back and back and back. And so they can sell you something else. They can sell you something else. What else about fear? Yes, sir.
In India, we have seen fear being used in religion in a big way. Be it Christian Catholics or Hindus or Muslims. The leaders dominate the crowd by using fear that, something bad will happen to you if you don't listen to me.
That's exactly what they did in the Inquisition. And in that time, it was my church, the Catholic Church, that was the promoter of that idea. And they used fear, religious fear, and some of the smaller offshoot religions still use it predominantly. And in countries like India, the major religions still use it. Contrary to what you've been taught, fear works. Fear works. And when you're helping these motivated sellers that have no exit, they couldn't give their fucking businesses away. Their kids don't want to have anything to do with it. They've worked 20, 30, 40 years or more. They're afraid. But we're going to help them out. But we're going to help. I don't believe in win-win situations. That's bullshit. But I mean, you're going to give them an exit that they probably couldn't get anyway, and you're going to start to build your own generational wealth for yourself. And so, with no money. Somebody emailed or was on a couple of days ago, and I just read it late last night. What's the best thing about QLA? And there's a lot of great things about QLA. You build generational wealth, blah blah blah. But the best thing is no money. Because most of the planet, of the 7.5 billion people, have no money. And that's one thing almost the whole planet. Now, I mean no money. I think if you got $10 million, you got no money. I don't mean that. But I mean, for the most part, most people live paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, plus or minus 10%. And so that's no money to me. That's no money. In some countries, it's a lot worse than that. Parts of the African continent, parts of South America, etc. But the best thing about QLA is you don't need any money to start. People say, how did I come up with this model? How did I come up? And I certainly didn't do any spreadsheets, and I had no fucking money. I had $1,000, and I put up $820, and then the former secretary of what was Anderson's secretary? Anyway, he wasn't secretary of treasury, but anyway, my first chairman, my anchor chairman, put up $180, and so that's how the company got started back in the day. But I had no money, and so the things that I developed were based on I had no money. And just as I developed or I discovered or understood for the first time, which was called success fees in those days, and now it's delayed fees or rolled fees, is because my first big deal cratered, and I had 500 and some odd thousand pounds in fees, which I had no money. And so I had to pay them off over the next 2-3 years. But if I had known about delayed fees, I wouldn't have had that challenge, and I would have just rolled them into the successful deal. And so, i.e., delayed fees were part of the QLA model. And all the things that the QLA model now has after 25 years in just a few weeks is because it's the best practices. And in the last 4 or 5 years, you kids have developed some additional practices, some of which, i.e., LinkedIn. LinkedIn was around a long, long time before I incorporated it into the model. I mean, we've only been doing it the last 4 or 5 years, and it's been around, I asked somebody yesterday, 10 years about. And so we could have been doing it for 4 or 5 additional years, but we were successful. And remember, in the 90s and the early 2000s, we didn't have any of these tools. And yet somehow these guys are still creating billions. And it's the old story. 30 years ago, it took about 30 to 45 days to do due diligence on a $100 million deal, more or less, to get a deal done. Now we've got the internet, and we've got this, and we've got 4G, and all this bullshit, right? It still takes 30 to 45 days to do a $100 million deal. When everything is moving at light speed, how come it takes the same amount of fucking time to get a fucking deal done? It's because we have become, lazy, satiated. Put that aside. Let's say we're not lazy, we're not satiated. We have become used to, we can't do it on our own. Like some kids can't really write anymore because they're used to typing on the internet. And that's why communication skills are so poor with a lot of millennials, because they're not used to talking. And that's why people text. And because we've come up with all these shortcuts, all these tips to get stuff done, but we're not saving time because we repeat it. We spreadsheet it and spreadsheet it and spreadsheet it. Garbage out. If the information that you're putting in the spreadsheet doesn't change and you hit the fucking send button, it's going to be the same fucking answer, right? Yeah. But we hit the again and again and again. We may change the format of the spreadsheet, but we haven't changed any of the data, and again and again and again. And when we talk about the weekly reports, I don't want any fucking spreadsheets. If you send me a spreadsheet, I delete the report. If you send me attachment, I delete the report. If you don't have your big fat Irish face on the front page so I can see it, I delete the report. But we're going to talk in depth about the weekly reports. Does anybody want to make me a bet that there'll be an attachment on the first weekly report? Anybody want to make me a bet that there'll be somebody without a picture? Those are slam dunks for me. Commander, your picture, I want to see your shiny fucking face on the report, okay? Okay, what else about fear?
50% of all children grow up fearful.
50, I don't know.
Oh, that's what
Okay, well, no, I think that's low. That's low. But fear is learned. It's learned. And who are you being taught by when you're a kid? Mom and dad. And for some of you, you know, absentee father, mom. And the only fear I had is when I told you this, my mother would say, Danny, you don't want to do this, okay? Well, we're going to have to get your dad involved. Oh, I started breathing through my rectum. No. Could you explain that to me a little more clearly, Mom? I must have misunderstood you. Of course I'll do it. Because that I was fearful of. Yes, sir.
Your three mentors, what did they do for staying out of the comfort zone and doing something that scares them?
I'm not sure that Costa, Jim, or Jerry Ormond did that.
Like you have your list, right?
Yeah, I have my list, but they didn't. They did a lot of risks. They took a lot of risks, but I didn't equate it to them stretching their comfort zone at the time. But they were risk takers. You know, Jerry Ormond was a wildcatter, an oil guy from Electra, Texas. Population 202 people, Electra, and it still got 202. And I was talking to an old boy from Louisiana during the interviews, and it brought back memories like you wouldn't believe. And I started talking like that. I started talking like a hillbilly, illiterate redneck, because that's what I am down deep inside. So they took a lot of risks, and so they were pushing the envelope. And the main reason that we incorporated, I say we, me and the Lord incorporated it into the weekly reports is because, especially the last 10 or 15 years, most of your lives have zero risk in it. So when you have a business opportunity that you know, that really is a black box that turns shit into gold, okay? And I'm not talking about crypto fuck, okay, blockchain. You don't take the risk because you're not used to taking risks, because you're not used to expanding your comfort zone. You're not used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. And one of the things that the psychiatrists say about guys that are returning from combat, because they teach you, at least in the infantry, keep your weapon with you all the time. You know, you always got to be on alert and blah, 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 blah. And so, and if you're out there 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and especially the guys that came back from World War II, they're out there 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's hard to shake that, if not impossible. Some guys never shake it. If they hear a car backfire and they hit the ground. My cousin, the one that got all shot up, when he came back from Vietnam, we're walking down the street, a car backfired and he hit the ground. And he grabbed me, because you grab your buddies and you hit the ground. And then some asshole in the restaurant said, frag, incoming. I mean, there were guys in the late 60s, early 70s that were hitting the ground. Okay, you hit the ground, YouTube.